So you want to learn how to take better pictures. I think that's pretty smart. Hey guys, it's Kyle at the Bay County Public Library. What's steamin', dreamers? Today I'm going to be telling you my top 3 beginner tips on how to take better pictures with your digital camera or smartphone. I've been practicing photography for about 2.5 years now, and I think I've got a couple of interesting tips that I picked up on my journey that I hope will save you a little headache. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me ask you something. Why do you want to take pictures in the first place? Not that I'm questioning whether or not you should take pictures, but I think it's important to know what your motivation is. When I got started, my motivation was boredom. I just really needed something else to do with my time, and I managed to stumble into some photography YouTubers, Peter McKinnon and Jessica Kobasi. They had amazing photographs on their channel, and it looked like a really fun thing to do. But just seeing them doing the photography wasn't what got me off the couch in the first place. What gave me the motivation to actually start photography was the chance to share art with other people. When you watch these YouTubers, they have this amazing lifestyle where they go different places and meet interesting people and share art throughout the entire experience. And I thought that lifestyle looked extremely interesting and exciting. I wanted to see if I could reproduce a little of that in my life. I would advise you do something similar. Watch a few videos and see if photography looks like it'd be fun to you, but absolutely think about your motivation first. Figure out who you're going to share these pictures with, what kind of joy you're going to introduce into their life, and how you're going to change it for the better with your cool new photography. It's the only thing that's going to get you off the couch and keep you taking pictures long after you're tired of photography. Let's jump into actually taking pictures. As soon as you do a Google search on which camera you should choose, you're going to see a long list of a million different cameras and a ton of different acronyms that you don't know the meanings of. I'm going to try to boil it down to a couple of really easy decisions for you to make. The first one is whether or not you're going to use your phone or a DSLR camera. DSLR stands for Digital Single Lens Reflex. It's the kind of camera that I'm filming this video on. It's the bulky one that you see at sports events, usually black, by Canon or Nikon or any of those other really big brands. You can buy an entry-level DSLR camera and get started right away. What I would recommend doing is getting started on your smartphone first. I recommend this because smartphones are things that just about everybody has access to. You shouldn't go off and spend hundreds of dollars on a hobby that you're not even sure you're going to keep at. If you know somebody with a smartphone, like yourself or a parent or another family member, ask them to borrow it, save the money, and see if you really like going out and taking pictures of things. Almost every camera has some sort of auto taking function, whether on your smartphone you just point and shoot it, or with the DSLR camera you just click the button. And there was a time when shooting on auto was not a good idea, but nowadays cameras and phones have amazing digital sensors that go back and fix some of your mistakes. Of course, you're watching this video because you want to learn how to do the hard stuff. You're already taking selfies with your phone and you want to take things to the next level. So here are my 3 tips on how to use your camera by taking it off of auto mode. You should be able to set your camera to manual and follow each one of these tips in order to get the best picture you possibly can with your camera. So before you start, be sure to set your camera or your smartphone to manual mode. Step number 1, adjust your aperture. The aperture of a camera is like your eyeball. You can have it wide open or you can squint and close it really small. The aperture of a camera works in the same way. We measure how open or how closed the camera is with something called an f-stop. That's the letter F with a slash and usually a number after it. The bigger that number is, the more closed the eye of your camera is, and the lower the number, the wider open your camera eye is. Your aperture should be set based on how far away the object is from you. Start by setting your aperture at 8.0. That's usually good for taking pictures of anything that's between 4 and 7 feet away from your camera lens. Then, adjust the aperture down if you're getting closer to the object you want to take a picture of. Low f-stop. And of course, do the opposite if you have something further away from you. Keep in mind though that whenever your aperture closes, it's just like your regular eye squinting. You don't get as much light in your eye and so everything looks darker. So the next step is going to try to help lighten up our pictures. Number 2 is shutter speed. You can think about the shutter speed of your camera like playing a game of peekaboo with a baby. Your camera opens up its shutter to let light in, and then you close it again to seal off the light when the camera is done taking the picture. Astrophotographers who take pictures of the sky and stars and the moon, they love long shutter speeds. That way they can get all the light from distant stars, plenty of time to get into the camera. Of course, with long shutter speeds also means that motion gets really blurry, and if you knock your camera at all, you'll see weird streaking lines through your picture. It doesn't look good. Shutter speeds are usually measured in fractions of a second, so you'll see them on your camera as 1/60 or 1/300. What I recommend doing is starting your camera off at 1/60 and then asking yourself, am I taking a picture of something that's moving, or am I prioritizing getting more light into my camera? If you're taking pictures of a sporting event or a moving car, you want a high shutter speed like 200 or 300, but if you're not taking pictures of anything that's moving, set your shutter speed lower, like 1/45 or 1/30. Standing still, so you need a really low shutter speed. So say you had a high aperture and a high shutter speed, how do you make your images bright again? They're just gonna all turn out really dark. And that's where ISO comes in. ISO stands for something really long that it's really hard to remember, so people just like to call it ISO. On your camera, it starts at 100 and doubles at each increment. So 100, 200, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. The ISO is like a little light inside your camera or inside of your phone. It digitally increases the lightness of a picture while you're taking it, which is amazing because then you don't have to worry so much about lighting. The trick with ISO though is that if you go too high, your images will look grainy and messed up. You don't want to set your ISO too high. So, which ISOs should you take your pictures at? Here's a general rule of thumb. If you're outside and it's sunny out, don't have your ISO any higher than 200. Anything lower than 200 will be fine because the light of the sun will illuminate anything you want to take a picture of. At dawn or dusk or inside, set your ISO between 400 and 1600. This way the camera adjusts a little bit of light, but is mostly using the light in the environment around you. Finally, if you're out late at night or if you're in a room with not very much light, set your ISO to 3200 or more. So in conclusion, start with your aperture, set it to f-stop 8.0 and lower it for things that are close to you, raise it for things that are further away from you. Number 2, use your shutter speed. If something is moving really quickly, you want to set your shutter speed above 100, and if you're taking a picture of something that's standing still, you can drop it below 60 and get a really bright image. Number 3, adjust your ISO. Keep it as low as possible, under 200 if you're outside, between 400 and 1600 if you're inside, and above 1600 when you're out late or in a dark room.
That was a lot of information.
I hope it served you well though. Those are all the things that I learned that were the most important in my 2.5 or so years of taking pictures. I'll flash a couple of my images up on screen or something at some point. If you found them useful, let me know by liking the video. Support the library by subscribing to the YouTube channel. And of course, share your pictures with us on Facebook because we want to know how your amateur photography journey is going. Go out there and take a couple pictures for us. Share them with us. We'd love to see them. In the meantime, stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.